Coming up on 2.5 Geeks, we'll be talking about a Dell Ultrabook that you need to see. It's super thin, it's super light, but was it any good? We'll also talk about some graphics cards where I'll be scratching my head and be confused. Then talk about the Galaxy Note and a whole lot more.
The bar has been set wicked fast. It rocked in the benchmarks. We're going to up the ante a little bit.
Processing power, I kind of understand this.
Welcome back to 2.5 Geeks, and boy, do we have issues today. One, I don't have my lav mic, so I am holding this microphone, so I might sound different. On top of that, we have Dave, who looks fantastic in his video today because the Skype gods have smiled down upon him. Unfortunately, Marco is going through some kind of networking heck of some kind, so his frame rate may be 2 to 3 frames per second. He might even freeze, but we assure you that Marco is completely fine. It is merely our horrible connection. Welcome back to 2.5 Geeks. I'm Ayaz Akhtar. How are you guys doing, Dave and Marco?
Hanging in there, buddy. How about you?
Oh, I'm just dandy. Marco, how about you?
I'm good. If we get through this one and everything works, I'll be much better.
That's a big if. We don't know if it will be, so please bear with us because we love you. We want to get in contact to you.
Editing abilities.
There we go. Let's talk about some hardware because that makes a lot of sense with the show title. Let's talk about the Dell XPS.
Smoking hot hardware.
The Dell XPS 13-inch Ultrabook. Okay, Dave, let me guess. Thin and light, super thin Intel inside, and what makes it so different?
You nailed it. We're done. No.
Moving on. No, seriously.
Yeah, no, it's actually, it's probably, let me think here. The third Ultrabook I've actually set my hands on. Looked at Asus, I've looked at the Lenovo U300S, that's coming up. We have a review coming up on that. The Asus UX21, and now this Dell XPS 13. Paul Lilly, for us, also took a look at Toshiba's Protege, a little play on words, Ultrabook. So we've seen quite a fair share of them here, and the Dell XPS is definitely different and remarkable in spots. And you know, left us a little wanting in spots as well, to be honest. It is built, as you said, on an Intel Core i7-2637M processor, so plenty of horsepower there. It's a dual core with hyper-threading, base clock of 1.7 gig, turbos up to 2.8 gig. 4 gig of DDR3 1333 system memory, and our machine came configured with a 256 gig SSD. So no shortage of horsepower, that's for sure. As a matter of fact, this machine was the fastest Ultrabook we ever tested, and built very well. Has a microfiber body, you know, sort of the backside and underneath that side of the chassis. The top lid is a brushed aluminum finish, really resists fingerprints nicely. Palm rest area is a magnesium composite material, and the keycaps are plastic, and that was kind of where we were left a little flat. Keycaps, frankly, shallow travel to them, and a little bit of a plasticky feel. However, they were backlit by gum, and that was a first for us. So it was nice to see backlit keyboard, and we'd like to see that more often. So pretty pleased with this Ultrabook. A couple more things we would have liked to have seen brought out with it, though.
What is it about a backlit keyboard that makes you think it's actually a quality product? Because this happens to me too. I think about that. I'm like, why do they cheap out on that little light? They could have just added that in. Is there anything? How is this thing for the value? Because some of the knocks on some Ultrabooks is they're just not low cost enough just yet because they're thin and light, and sometimes you got to pay for that. What was the value like on the Dell?
Well, yeah, good point. I mean, there's 2 SKUs available currently for it right now. $999 is the price for the model with 128 gig SSD on board. We tested the $1499 with a 256 gig SSD on board. By the way, blazing fast SSD with 500 meg read and roughly 250 write. So very good storage subsystems in this machine. 47 watt-hour battery, 6-cell battery, not too bad on battery life. Really drops into some low power modes. Actually, we realized something like 7 hours, close to 7 hours in our light duty battery test just browsing the web. So, in terms of value, to answer your question, it is a little bit pricey. We want to see these Ultrabooks dropping in closer to the $800 price point, get well underneath that $1,000 watermark. But when you consider the components you have on board versus competitive products, and of course we have to think about things like the MacBook Air, this is a whole lot of horsepower and well-built, thin and light notebook for the money. You also have a 13.3-inch display with edge-to-edge glass, so no bezel at all. There is a black glass trim, underneath the LCD glass. It's framed off with a black trim, but there's actually no bezel on the glass at all. So really nice display, 1366 by 768 resolution. So gorgeous display, well-built machine. Wish the keycaps were a little bit firmer underhand and not so plasticky. Let's see what else. A little bit of an audible whine under load. So when you're torquing up that dual core Core i7 processor to 2.8 gigahertz, you do get a little bit of fan noise. Not too bad though. Not a deal breaker. Something just we noticed. Wish it was a little bit quieter. But for the money, very well built, very well spec'd and configured machine, and I think these days worth it. If that's what you need is thin and light without sacrificing performance, you're not going to game a whole lot on this machine, but it's going to be able to handle just about everything else.
Now it's time for my favorite part of the show, where Marco schools me on graphics cards every time. He tries to explain this to me. I try to understand, and for some reason it just doesn't stick. This time there's a preview of the AMD Radeon HD 7870 and the 7850. Okay, Marco, the numbers are high-end graphics cards?
You're getting there.
They are almost high-end graphics cards. They're AMD's mid-range graphics Core Next products. So, a few months back, we showed you the 7900 series. That's the high-end. Those cards are based on the Tahiti GPU. Then a few weeks back, we showed you the 7700 series, which was based on AMD's Cape Verde GPU. Now, these kind of complete the Southern Islands picture. This family of graphics processors fell under AMD's Southern Island family. These are based on the Pitcairn GPU, and it falls right in between Cape Verde and Tahiti. As a matter of fact, Pitcairn's basically double Cape Verde. If you take all the features on the 7700 series, double them up, you basically have Pitcairn. So that's the GPU powering these new, the 7870 gigahertz edition and the 7850. So upper mid-range graphics cards, typical AMD Radeon HD 7000 feature set that we've talked about before. Does that kind of set the stage for you, IS?
I'm gonna assume that there's multiple display outs, like 4, because it's a mid-level, not a 6. Does that sound about right?
Well, they actually support up to 6. There are 4 outputs on the cards, but the DisplayPort outputs. What did I just miss?
No, it was just the way he was responding to your answer.
Shocked. I was trying.
I thought it was funny.
You put together two of the things, by the way. AMD put together 2 things that I'm extraordinarily weak on: geography and graphics cards. So this is fantastic.
All right. Well, I'll get back to the specs now.
Okay,
but yeah, these are faster than 7700, slower than 79. So that gets that out of the way. But this is an interesting GPU. The 7800 series is the technical replacement for the 6900 series. These are the cards that are more attainable than those ultra expensive top of the line cards, but they still offer that kind of excellent performance where they hit that sweet spot of the market. Now, the 7870 gigahertz edition, the name kind of gives away the GPU clock. GPU is clocked at 1 gigahertz. Card has a 2 gig frame buffer connected through a 256-bit interface. So the card has 153 gigs a second of memory bandwidth. That's tons of memory bandwidth. The GPU, when it's clocked at 1 gigahertz, it has, the clock has nothing to do with the number of stream processors, but there's 1,280 stream processors. When clocked at 1 gigahertz, the high-end 7870 offers 2.56 gigaflops of compute performance, which is unheard of at this price point a couple of years ago. It's kind of impressive. The 7850 is similar. It has a few compute units fused off. There are 1,024 stream processors enabled on that card, and its GPU is clocked at 860 megahertz. So versus the 6970. The 7870 versus 6970. The 7870 is basically faster across the board. A couple of corner cases where it's not. The 7850 was faster than the 6950 almost across the board. Now, versus competition from NVIDIA, the 7870 goes right up against the current GTX 570, and it's generally faster. The GTX has a couple of spots where it catches up and passes it, and the 7850 goes up against the GeForce GTX 560 Ti, and again, sort of the same situation. The 7850 is generally faster, but the 560 Ti can catch up or pass it in a few instances. But where these cards really shine is in terms of their power consumption. They are by far the lowest power consumption in this price segment. So you're talking about similar prices versus the previous gen cards, better performance, say in the 5 to 10% range, but at much lower power and, in my experience, lower noise. So the 7870 is a $350 card. 7850 is a $250 card. So you're looking at high-end performance from the previous gen at attainable price points.
Okay, on to that. See, I'm sure to the audience, all of that made a lot of sense. To the general public,
I want to make one more quick point about these cards.
Go for it.
Just one more quick thing. All right. So in these last few launches, I've kind of dinged AMD a little bit for not pushing the price performance curve. The cards are priced where they can be priced, but they're not really putting any price pressure on the competition. The GPU, this Pitcairn GPU, is actually smaller than the GPU used on the 6800 series. And those cards are in the $100 to $150 price range right now. So should NVIDIA come out with something nice relatively soon and put some pressure on AMD, AMD has a ton of room to play with the prices on these cards. So could get interesting in the next few months.
Let's move on to something that's confusing the general public. The Samsung Galaxy Note. I believe it has a 5.3-inch screen. Some people calling it a phablet, a phone tablet, and every other stupid name for that. I've heard some really crappy names for it. But yeah, it's a 5.3-inch. It has a 5.3-inch display, and it's an Android phone and not quite a tablet. And Hot Hardware reviewed it. What did you guys think of this device?
Interesting. We were confused as well, to be honest. I picked up this device way back at CES in January and had some time playing with the stylus and using the script touch interface with a little drawing, a little handwriting, and character recognition, all that good stuff. It's interesting. I think the size, when you first pick it up, feels good. I mean, it fits in your hand nice. It's not pocketable, so to call it a phone is really to do it an injustice and to do yourself a disservice. You're not going to stick this thing in your pocket. Maybe, I don't know, if you're a lady, you can toss it in your pocketbook and it might tuck away a little bit easier. But putting this thing up to the side of your head, I wish I had one here to show you, looks pretty goofy at 5.3 inches. It's just, no two ways around it. However, as what I would say a hyper-connected device, it's got 4G LTE as well as HSPA plus support for AT&T, both their AT&T's have HSPA plus as well as LTE. And so, you've got copious 4G connectivity as well as, Wi-Fi. And so you're really connected anywhere you go with this thing, which is a real plus. That's nice. There are not enough full tablets that have, modems on board, that have cellular modems on board. So nice to have that. The processor, pretty robust, dual core 1.5 gigahertz Snapdragon processor, a gig of RAM, 16 gig of internal storage with an SD micro card as well. You can get up to another 32 gig. So well-equipped device, 8 megapixel rear-facing camera, 2 megapixel front-facing cam, $299 on contract. Are you going to use this thing as, your standard phone? Well, maybe if you tether it with Bluetooth in your car, but holding it up to your head is going to be kind of silly. So I don't know. It's a well appointed tablet, small 5-inch tablet. and certainly the stylus and the pen and being able to jot and make notes on images and what have you, and annotate things. That's a nice feature as well. But it's a tweener, and it's one of those things where it's going to serve a niche. People that need that big device that need to also be connected, you know, they'll have interest in it. But I don't know, as a primary cell phone device, that's a reach.
You know, a lot of people knock the Note because it has a stylus. It's not that it needs the stylus. It's that you can write things on it really easily. Plus, it has a pretty good, I believe it's actually using the Wacom drivers, so it can handle pressure sensitivity to a degree. So it's actually much more like an artist device than I think people give it credit for. It's not like an old Palm device that needed a stylus. But then again, I'm sure people have seen this because of that Super Bowl ad where they were showing the Galaxy Note. And again, it's a hard sell. I've seen some of this stuff used in real life. It looks like you're holding up a notebook to your head because it is that large. And by the way, for a frame of reference, and if you want to hack something together, you could probably fit a Galaxy Note into an old Apple Newton body because that's about the same size screen. So if you're really bored, you can go do that. And
You'd have to be real bored.
Any other impressions you have of the not the Newton, of the Note?
Yeah, you know, as you make some good points. Again, I think this is a niche product. They're not going to sell a couple bajillion of these things like they do, Galaxy S2 phones and whatnot. And so, but as a device, a connected tablet device that also, by the way, happens to have cell phone capability. Should you want to make a call on it, put it on the desk as a speakerphone, probably is a better way to use it. It's a nice device. One thing they need to get going on this thing right away, though, is honeycomb. I mean, why we have gingerbread at this point is beyond me. And so Android 4.0, it needs to be on it. And but we're running ice cream sandwich. Excuse me, I said honeycomb, didn't I? Yeah, ice cream sandwich. Thank you. Yeah, so we got Android 2.3 gingerbread as the main OS currently, and it really needs an ice cream sandwich update to Android 4.0. And once you get that, as a niche product for some folks, as you say, folks that need that digitizer and that pen. By the way, the display is gorgeous. It's 1280 by 800 resolution, Super AMOLED, HD AMOLED display by Samsung. You can't get better than that. So nice device, real large, not a phone, but a connected tablet that can make calls. Sure, let's call it that.
Now, Marco, you guys got to try the Zotac Z-Box, right? Now, Zotac usually makes really small computers. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
What do you have
I
there?
had a really small head. This is what the Note looks like up against it. Hello? Sorry.
That was not the actual Note. That appeared to be.
That was the 10.1 inch. My hands fit on a 10.1 inch. So
right. So if you're a miniature person, you might not. That's what the Note will look to you. So anyway, back to let's move on to the Zotac Z-Box, which Zotac makes some tiny computers, really small computers. I would assume that you might be able to hide it under the Note at this point. But how large was? Tell us about the mini PC, the ID80. Because I mean, I'm always interested in Zotac because every time I see their stuff, I'm thinking home theater PC.
Exactly. So this is not a Z-Box Nano. This is the latest Z-Box Plus from Zotac. These guys are still small. It's about a 7.4 inch square, about 1.7 inches wide. Now, this new box is based on Intel's latest Atom, the Cedar Trail platform. So you have a 2.13 gigahertz dual-core Atom with hyperthreading, so it can do 4 threads. But Zotac also paired an NVIDIA GeForce GT 520 mobile processor in there for video capabilities. Now, this guy's kind of perfectly suited for home theater applications, as you mentioned. The footprint is very small. It includes a media center remote. It also includes a VESA mount if you want to actually mount it behind a display so it doesn't have any footprint on a desk, or if you have space behind a TV on a wall. And it's got all the kind of connectivity that you would want, in a home theater PC. You have HDMI, you have multiple USBs, and it comes with an IR extender for the media center remote, an external power supply that you can tuck away that doesn't make any noise. So all of the goodies that you'd want in a home theater PC or a small form factor PC are there.
So you're saying that it's got a lot of good points. Was there anything strange or glaringly missing from this? Because, I mean, if I remember Zotac stuff, they're usually very bare bones. You got to bring your own OS. Sometimes you got to bring some of your own other parts. How was the base model of this thing?
So the base model, the one that we tested was the Plus model. So it included 2 gigs of RAM and a 320 gig hard drive in there. No OS, but it came with a drive. Now, in my experience and Paul's experience, Paul is the one who tested this for us. The Plus models in Zotac's line, you're better off buying the bare bones ones and getting your own memory and drive. The included hard drive, it's just not that fast. It's a 5400 RPM, 2.5-inch drive that absolutely is not going to win any performance records. And it only comes with 2 gigs of RAM. Now, if you want to run an alternative OS on there, 2 gigs is probably fine. But if you want to put Windows 7 on there, 4 gigs is much better. And memory is so cheap right now, in my opinion, it's worth just buying the separate memory and separate drive and setting up the way you like. If you want to get nutty, throw an SSD in there, the experience is so much better. I actually did that with my ZBox Nano just to see how it would perform, and it's like a totally different machine. So the Plus model that we looked at is $320. I didn't look up the price of the bare bones. I think it's something like $249 without the drives and the memory. So in my opinion, better off going with that, putting your own drives in it, setting up exactly the way that you want.
I'm a big fan of Zotac because their designs scream home theater PCs, and they figured it out. So big fan of that.
Right.
It's always good to see that stuff.
If you were to grab somebody who's interested in a home theater PC and, tell me all the features that you want, they're basically going to give you the features that are in these little guys, wired and wireless, internet network connectivity, USB, HDMI, discrete graphics for excellent video decoding, low power CPU and quiet, external power supplies. Zotac does almost everything right except for the component selection in the Plus models.
Or if you're nuts, you can go get the Raspberry Pi. It's $25. It's got Linux on it. Go for that. It's got nothing else, but good luck with that one. Anyway, let's move on to contest hints. Dave, can you hint about the contest? Could you hint that there is a contest?
There is a contest coming. We're still waiting to nail down the details, but for sure it's coming. And I would say at this point, for sure it's tablet based. How's that?
It's a tablet, not a phablet?
No, it's not a phablet. It will be an actual tablet and something that you definitely wouldn't want to hold up to your face unless you were, sight challenged or what have you, visually challenged. But it's coming, and our folks, our friends at NVIDIA are hinting at helping gather some goodies that may in fact be Tegra 3 based, but we're trying to confirm that as well. So if you're hanging around the site, keep hanging around because we have details coming up very soon.
And the site Dave's talking about, of course, is HotHardware.com, where you can find out everything we talked about here, the contest details when it goes live, and a whole lot more. So that's kind of neat. Tegra 3, huh? That's that 4+1 processor, right?
It is.
That's what they've renamed it anyway. But if you want to find Hot Hardware content around the web, you sure can. Check out dig.com/hothardware. There's twitter.com/hothardware. There's facebook.com/hothardware. There's youtube.com/hothardwarevids. And I'm sure everywhere else. If you just do a Google search for Hot Hardware, you'll be able to find everything, everywhere. You can't escape it.
No,
you can't.
Nor would you want to.
No, it's actually quite pleasant. It's like a nice summer breeze. Anyway,
yes,
we've made it through this. We've made it through this episode with all kinds of weirdness. Thank you for putting up with the quality. I'm not talking about the content. The content was excellent, gentlemen. Great stuff there.
Thank you.
But the network,
thank you, sir.
The network, I have issues with. We'll talk about that later. Network, you and I are gonna have a discussion.
There you go.
Thanks for stopping by, guys.